Are there any herbs that make you angry or any herbs that make you excited?
I think herbs that make me angry are like when liver people just use liver herbs on people that don't necessarily indicate for liver patterns. But then they still get great results and it pisses me off. I'm looking at Karen. She just prescribes everybody a version of Xiaoyasan. She like takes Xiaoyasan and modifies it. It's like Xiaoyasan plus Gui Tong, but she gets great fucking results with it. It just makes me so angry.
Okay, so like a formula that makes me angry is
#control issues.
Is Sichuan Dabutong. Like I feel like that's
Of course you're gonna tonify when it's all those herbs.
It's like I feel like that's the formula you use when like you're dumb.
You don't know
you don't know what else to do.
You have no fucking clue. Yeah, use that one.
And then I used it and it worked, and I was so angry that it worked. Like this, like,
I made one of these formulas that I hate so much.
Like the skinny woman got pregnant off of Sichuan Dabutong, and it made me so angry.
See, that's when I tell people even an idiot can move chi.
Yeah,
right? It's like you accidentally tipped her over the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like totally wrote a formula that I filled for a lot of people.
Yeah,
and
what
I
was your angry formula?
God, so like when I toyed with the idea of getting the doctorate, which I like went to the first weekend of, and then I was like, "Fuck all you all."
Well, I feel like you are the one who was like, "I'm just going to give Shudi Huang and Huang Qi to everybody."
Yeah, that's the one. That's the fucking one.
Because you're like, "Oh, it tonifies qi, tonifies blood. Must be good for something."
So I like went to the first weekend of the doctoral thing, and I was like, "This is just for letters after your name, and I'm so above this, I'm never going back." But they prepped you with you're gonna have to do a capstone, like a research thing to defend. And so I went to Tantan and I was like, "What's the most arcane, crazy herb book?" So insane that nobody would ever translate it. And he gave it to me and I translated it. And it was essentially this hipster back in the 200s AD making fun of Zhang Junjing. And he essentially he never wrote the formula, but he defined like, of course, Gui Tong's going to work because it has this, this, and this. And of course, Tian Wang Bu Xindan is going to work because it has this, this, and this. And so I was working with a person with diabetes. And so I like built this formula based on his principles, right? So this was not me making this formula. It was like, I just extrapolated the data that he put out, came up with this formula, and fuck, it nails the shit out of an A1C. I won't say to people that it treats diabetes, but it'll fucking roll an A1C down, right? And to me, what happens is if somebody's like maybe their metabolic activity is in trouble, then their body can't govern a bunch of other things, right? Like you have a limited amount of energy and your body is spending so much resource on maybe trying to treat your own diabetes that your foot gets a neuropathy or your eyes stop working or you're tired all the time, right? And so I made this kind of like blanket A1C formula out of this stuff. And I was so sick and tired. I'm in Kentucky. It's a bunch of fat people. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm so sick and tired of hearing people that come in to me and like, I got diabetes. And so I like started like blind describing it and everybody got fucking better. And I'm like, God damn it. It's literally just these fucking two fucking herbs just making everybody better. So that one just pisses me off. And yes, if anybody emails me, I'll just send you the formula. It's great for A1C. It just rocks its fucking world.
Formulas that make you angry. What do you think about Gan Mao Ling and Xiang Susan?
So when you say Gan Mao Ling, you mean pills?
Yeah, I feel like, because I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, I just give Gan Mao Ling because that's what they give in China. And like, do Chinese doctors give it in China? Or is that just like your grandma in China who knows nothing about Chinese medicine prescribes this?
I got a fake PhD in China. They don't only prescribe Gan Mao Ling.
And I feel like there's no standard Gan Mao Ling. It's just like, there's a lot of different things. Maybe it has acetaminophen in it. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's herbs. Nobody can actually tell me what's the treatment principle behind.
And that's my largest issue with the pills is like in Chengdu, we went to the pill manufacturer and I watched them like, they're like, oh yeah, we use the finest quality Tang and the finest quality Baizhi, and then we use the finest quality diphenhydramine. We just sprinkle it in there. And so I'm not pro China government. I love classical China. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And I'm extremely skeptical. The we have the horrible capitalistic view over here. Over there, they're making up for it. And so I'm adamantly against the pills that are produced over there because you do not know what is in them. Like when I first moved out to California, I went and got shui zaan, a sleeping, help you fall asleep thing, and it had a Russian tranquilizer in it because the company had built a tranquilizer, cooked it up for the Russians, drugs, and then the Russians didn't want it, and so they're just fucking put it in the shui zaan. It worked phenomenally. It was the best sleep I've ever had in my life. But it's I'm super skeptical of the pills for that reason. The Gan Mao Ling thing, I really believe that's during flu season, that might work for 20% of people. And that's great. If you if somebody comes in and they're I got all these cold symptoms and you give them acupuncture and send them home with some Gan Mao Ling, maybe it worked, maybe the acupuncture worked, maybe it was 50-50. If you want to prescribe that way, that's completely fine. I'm too much of a pretentious dickhead for that. I have to have a specific reason for the dosage and the use of exact herbs.
And it's kind of like when I ask people about Gan Mao Ling, they can never explain to me what pattern it's actually treating.
Right, because it's not for a pattern. It's a modern formula. Modern formulas aren't for patterns. They're for clinical observations. If you're practicing traditional Chinese medicine, you're blanket diagnosing Yin Xiao San, and maybe that's okay. But if you're using Gan Mao Ling, it's this is just something in modern times we see that XYZ tends up treating 30% of common cold.
The other interesting one that came up alongside Gan Mao Ling was Xiangsu San or Jiawei Xiangsu San, where I had a Chinese student who was this is what we prescribe in China. Why does nobody prescribe this? And I went through the Bensky and read the commentary on it, and it was this formula was developed by people who thought that the Shanghanlun, it's we don't have this extreme cold. We don't need to have this extreme action of promoting sweating. So let's just kind of mildly release the exterior and regulate qi. And I feel that actually applies to most of the modern colds that we have. But people are always oh, we should use Guizhi Tong. Every time somebody has a cold, let's use Guizhi Tong. It's why are people sleeping on Xiangsu San?
And there's a whole book of people that told you, when you inappropriately treat with X, Y, and Z herbs, this is how you fix that. The guy who wrote the first book wrote the second book saying you people were fucking it up. Why are we sleeping on Xiangsu San?
Yeah, do you ever prescribe Xiangsu San or?
I mean, I've prescribed it.
Do you treat a lot of common colds? I guess do people even come in?
I think we treat a ton of common colds. I would say that traditionally, I will modify Xiangsu San. I will end up because we'll see a common cold with an emphasis on rhinitis, nasal issues, and so it's I'll do Xiangsu San and I'll give an incredible dose of Baijiu, this type of thing.
Yeah, I feel Jurso San is another one that people don't know that formula exists. And I was
Jurso San is a gorgeous formula. That shit's well written.
It stops cough. If they have a cough, give them the stop cough powder. Why are you making this so complicated?
Yeah, I think that
it's so easy to modify to the.
I think that back then the people that got the cough, nowadays we're getting the cough for the different reason. I treat people now with common cough from blood pressure medication, this type of thing, right? Or it's they had the cough. They got the sequela of sickness, and then they had the cough after sickness. But then there's
what are all these fucking airplanes?
I live next to an airport. I'm fucking poor. I live next to an airport.